congestion tax, or simply the word tax, is kind of like flashing a cross right in front of a possessed person. It scares the fuck out of them. And yeah, there's been a lot of controversy regarding to congestion taxing throughout the years in New York City. Well, right now I'm in my home city because I can't afford a triplet. But either way, it's been a controversy in New York, especially the surrounding suburbs, because people, in short, think my entitlement equals the Constitution. Like, you know, people don't want to enter like certain city centers like it's an amusement park apparently. And other people have arguments like, what's going to happen to my business? No one's going to drive anymore. It's literally limiting people's freedoms in general. Or my favorite argument, but my car. The most valid argument I could say is that it probably will affect people financially, but then again, car payments in general are a lot more expensive. It's naturally going to be a lot more expensive to drive than walking or taking public transit, anything. Like, the arguments may sound valid at first, but in reality, it's really stupid. Okay, but for real, if you've been exposed to cars your whole life, or if you're simply an ignorant boomer, these statements sound pretty valid, but it's actually, in reality, the complete opposite of that. Just because if it slightly takes money away from your bank account, I guess it's fraudish. It's their point of view. I mean, I understand in some aspects, but I feel like this actually has a good benefit to it, especially the fact that there's already a good viable alternative to begin with. It's taking downtowns back for the people again. Not like infested with cars, like, what the fuck is that behind me, dude? But yeah, it's not really a money grab than you really think. So yeah, why don't you just grab yourself some popcorn, a bowl of milk, and yeah, here we go. Congestion's been a problem in this whole country for a while now. Particularly in bigger cities with bigger populations, traffic congestion's actually getting worse and worse throughout the days. And I mentioned it in a previous video that that congestion has pretty much increased within the past decade. And one factor being SUVs. Even though most places throughout the country though have calmed down during the pandemic, New York traffic actually got worse somehow. Surprisingly, due to the fact that most people try to avoid taking the subway during this time, because understandably people felt more safe in metal boxes from COVID. The city of New York have been trying to cut down on traffic gridlock for decades. One of the proposals that we've been considering since the mid-2000s, year by year, they talked about congestion pricing. And discussions regarding it comes up every now and then. It's always on and off. And at the beginning, most people opposed this idea, but as time went on, most people slowly started to like this idea. But within a decade, the Federal Highway Administration finally approved the plan to charge drivers entering Manhattan below 60th Street. But even with this approval, there are still a good amount of people who are completely against it. And for the most part, it's completely irrational. Unsurprisingly, there's a lot of people that are upset about this whole thing, this newly approved congestion pricing. It's understandable that most people will be skeptical about something new like this, or like anything new in general, but Americans get really riled up once you tell them to spend a single penny, even a half penny that's slightly broken. Perhaps that's human nature, actually. People naturally don't want their things taken away, and I get that, but the thing is, this has more benefits than downsides. Although I do understand some of the downsides, this has way more benefits, and not only that, it outweighs it. It's just that Americans are too stubborn to spend a single penny for it, let alone anything that's has anything to associate with the public. There are a lot of people on social media who are angry about this proposal in general. It seems that anything involving money, once again, they think the government just wants to take your money, that's it. I understand where they're coming from because one, it took CDOT and IDOT to repair the Jane Byrne interchange twice as long and double the cost than it originally supposed to be. I'm wow, that's where our tax money's going, huh? Or even where money's going from the parking meter scandal. That stuff is crazy, you know. But it's to the point where no one wants to spend anything at this point. Why are they putting tolls in Manhattan? Because the city can't keep charging corrupt taxes forever, so they find new ways to drain us. I'm over it. Got a ticket last weekend going 39 in a school zone at 11:30 p.m. on a Saturday, camera ticket. They're really blowing. Why were you going 39 in a school zone to begin with? I don't care what time it is. You shouldn't even be going that fast. But To be fair though, it's all about the street design too. But even if it's the street design subconsciously tells you to drive slow, why are you driving so fast? I don't get it. This is bogus. We the people shouldn't have to pay for a congestion fee just because the MTA doesn't. Okay, I'm gonna stop you there because I'm a bit ahead. I get it. The MTA is not perfect. But you have to keep in mind if they were properly funded, because most places have been funding like highway infrastructure, it would be so much better. Look at cities like Tokyo, for example, or Paris, where public transit is pretty much thriving. Next would be tolls for people walking. Shaking my head. Point of congestion pricing actually is just for people to take public transit, bike, or hold up. Let me check. Walk. There's no such thing as adding tolls for people walking unless you count like admission fees for a museum. Otherwise, no one's ever gonna be tolled for walking. Like, you make it make sense. This is so greedy. If you build a city to be the most congested place in the world, then charge people for the crowd you created, what? That's the whole point. When it comes to like car culture or like making our cities for cars, it's been hard to catch up to the point where it's not even possible. You might as well just go back to the way that it once worked. Don't get me wrong, they're obviously a great invention, but it's like giving everyone carriages and trying to make people walking obsolete altogether. Of course, not only people are mad at it, but government officials are too. Like, they're saying that it's unethical for New Jerseyites, or that it's going to destroy their suburban way of life.
It's a direct assault on our suburban way of life, and
that's like the best one I've ever heard, dude. They be acting like that since like 10,000 years ago. They've been living that for 10,000 years ago. Well, okay, here's the thing. I do believe that this should fund like PATH and New Jersey Transit altogether. That's just my take on it. But if you want to benefit from it, then live there. That's all I gotta say. Like if you don't want like a place or a municipality to do something, live there and make a vote for it, or at the very least, I mean, yeah, advising's just one thing, but otherwise, just work where you live is my philosophy. Okay, since I'm not gonna accept that one reason where people say that it's gonna ruin our suburban way of life, but my car. Fuck your car, dude. Dude, there's a train station right next to you. This train, take it, right there. So, New Jersey officials keep saying that it's environmentally bad, especially towards their area, because apparently it's going to bring congestion traffic to New Jersey, and people will start avoiding Manhattan, but a lot of people will start driving to New Jersey now. More specifically, this violates the National Environmental Policy Act. In short, I gotta say, how does it violate NEPA? That's like, looking at at a driver's perspective, I can see why it's unfair, because you will have traffic be looking like a little bit like Mumbai, India. However, there's one thing you gotta keep in mind. New Jersey probably has better public transit system than most of the country. I would say it's like second best. And the 5 most populous cities in New Jersey are already walkable to begin with. Not only walkable, have the best public transit system. There are times where public transit in New Jersey, going into Manhattan or just getting around New Jersey in general, is a lot quicker than driving. I don't know why everyone has like some sort of addiction to driving. Like, I literally don't get it. More specifically, taking the train from Union City to Lower Manhattan, that's obviously going to be a lot quicker. Like, honestly, it just frustrates me, you know? Auto industry and car culture in America has completely intoxicated our mind, as if it's like the only thing that we can live with, and if once it's taken away, everyone starts going through a fucking famine and stuff like that. And now that I think about it, I think most people are actually addicted to cars, because even if you have other good alternatives, people would rather drive anyway because they want to avoid the public transit for some reason. Because apparently it's stigmatized for some reason in America. But one argument that I actually do understand is that one reason New York City is one of the richest places in the world. It's full of freaking billionaires. I do agree. Where the hell is that money going? But you gotta look at the history and stuff like that. This is why I'm kind of for like progressive taxation. Like, the richer you get, the more taxes you gotta pay. And honestly, either way, you're still gonna be rich anyway. Yeah, it's kind of like a hard edge between one or the other, you know? I'm aware that some people have to drive for their job. And I do kind of find it bogus that commercial vehicles
especially like delivery vehicles like UPS, USPS, Amazon would get charged. I feel like personally these vehicles shouldn't be charged driving into this zone at all, because they're actually delivering like goods to the city. And I do agree, I feel like if you do charge these vehicles, they're gonna be even more expensive. And if they do drive their personal vehicle for the sake of work, I feel like their job should like reimburse them if they ever enter a congestion zone. And I heard they actually pay it like only once a day, that's it. Or pay any tolls in general. And speaking of which, like I'm not, like I said, I don't live in New York. Like I heard you have to pay a toll already to enter Manhattan via the bridge. They should just get rid of that once they put congestion pricing into play, because it's already gonna be expensive enough. Otherwise, it is unfair for them to lose money while on the job, like especially for something they have to do in order to carry it out. Like, I don't know if most companies in New York already do that in terms of toll roads, but they really, really should. And of course, you'll get those people who say that they don't want to be around those people. Like, those people may refer them to the homeless, the mentally unstable. It makes them think that they believe they're going to be a victim of a crime just because of someone's appearance in a dire situation. Like, they instantly think that their life will end. Like, they would rather be in Afghanistan or Ukraine or Palestine. Like, obviously, there are crime issues that need to be resolved on the MTA and Pat's public transportation system. Of course, everyone deserves a safe ride home without being harassed by someone or being a victim of a robbery or assault or even worse, death. However, people act like you'll never experience any of this while driving to begin with. If anything, driving is, by their logic, is almost as dangerous, maybe even more dangerous. Like, the only difference is that you're actually shielded. But either way, shielded or not, a heavy vehicle hitting heavy vehicle is not a good thing. And it doesn't even help the fact that it's so much easier to gain your driver's license in the States. Like, it just adds more bad drivers on the road, making it more likely for an accident to occur. There are more road rage incidents that you'll hear about too, and cars can be used as a weapon as well. In my experience, I've been in more car accidents and road rage incidents than since I started driving than experiencing shady incidents or weird incidents on the CTA. And the CTA is honestly, crime's even worse compared to the MTAs, if I gotta be honest. People think that congestion taxing won't solve the problems of these types of people being around. Of course it won't. The whole point is to reduce congestion in lower Manhattan. Nothing more, nothing less. Because that is a whole different problem that the US has got to take care of. And that's like trying to lower the poverty rate. Actually, if more people take transit, there will be more eyes in the stations, the same way walkable neighborhoods were made to make socializing feel natural and have more eyes on the streets. The crime rate in Los Angeles shows that there were actually less crime 1 year after the stations opened, decreasing by 2.6%. Most of all, more people taking public transit means more people off the roads, meaning that the only people that are on the roads are the people that actually have to drive. And on the side note, it's crazy how government Phil Murphy and his administration are focused on making clean energy a priority, 100% by 2035. Like, why? And I also heard that New Jersey's trying to expand the New Jersey Turnpike. Like, why are we still expanding highways in this day and age? It's already proven one more lane doesn't work, but people still try advocating for it. It's as if that's all they've known for their entire lives. New York is one of the most walkable places in America. It honestly doesn't even come close. It's insane that people still insist on driving in these areas, even though walking can be quicker. 5 minutes quicker compared to going driving 5 minutes for a half block. But yeah, here are the best alternatives again to lower Manhattan. It's a good way to get around since it's the gateway to almost all forms of physical activity. It's also a lot easier to think about other things on your mind compared to driving, because you don't have to focus on the road like you're playing FIFA. And walking can be pleasant, but other times it may not be, because of just the surrounding constant loud noise that's surrounding you. It can be a greener option, it even takes up much less space compared to private vehicles, causing way less congestion in general. They also don't use petroleum, and I know there's e-bikes out there too, but their batteries are a lot less than compared to e-vehicles. Although I still like e-vehicles, but they still take up a lot of space. And they have the most extensive public transit system in the country, with more ridership than all of the US combined, and even citywide, it's more than 50% of people take the subway. And if you live in the suburbs, there's commuter rail, and Long Island is pretty thin especially, so it shouldn't be too much of a struggle to take public transit, especially when at times it can be quicker than driving altogether. Or you can stay at home. Staying at home is not what I advocate the most, but on the other hand, at least it's a good way to getting things done, and it's better than farting all day in those vehicles. Other cities, particularly in Europe, especially in London, have implemented congested pricing of their own, and it's seen some good results, although not the best results. It's good enough from the time being, but at the same time, I think it could be better. Traffic decreased inside the city center 18%, reduced congestion by 30%, and bus ridership has increased a lot drastically, 30%. And yes, there is congestion, I'll have to admit, but honestly, in a busy city center like this, whether you have a lot of pedestrians or cars, there's still going to be a congestion no matter what. But it's glad to see somewhat of a decrease. Like, people make the argument that the reason people don't live in cities because they are polluted. There's pollution in both air and the sound. Some will even say because it's like super smelly, oh my god. Or like the trash that are thrown around on the streets. But think about it, like redlining has pretty much caused people to like lose their freaking minds, especially going through their like neighborhoods initially. And not only that, other than that, vehicles have also like polluted the freaking air and all the freaking noise in general too. Like, practically, it actually exacerbated it. Over 350 million people die from premature deaths due to air pollution, due to vehicle emissions from the petroleum. And coming back to the noise section of this, being exposed to such noise levels, especially like on the middle of a highway or you're near the highway, it can elevate your stress levels. And it's really unpleasant, like when it's the last thing a person wants to hear on their commute. Like, it makes sense because a lot of people get anxious, lose focus, and makes it feel like this environment is just simply not for them. That's why I think, in a sense, congestion pricing is a good thing, because it's gonna make our air cleaner, gonna make urban centers a lot more quiet at least, and more pleasant to be in as a pedestrian. And overall, this is gonna make people use other forms of transit, taking transit, biking, etc. Honestly, in my experience, overall, this change, I was reluctant to this change, if I gotta be honest with you, but when I started going to university, like on the near west side, I actually like felt a lot better. Like 1 hour driving is a whole different story to a 1 hour commute on public transit, for me at least. Like, I just felt a lot better. However, I do have some concerns concerning congestion pricing. I just hope it doesn't turn out the same way as the parking meter scandal that's going on here. Like, that money better actually go to New York. It better go to New York. Not only New York, it better go to the MTA. I think this citizens need 100% transparency. And in some ways, I do understand why people are against it, because people lost trust in the government. Like, what are you doing? Like, whether this is for the good or not, this is not a good look. But at the same time, what's another way to, or at least alleviate congestion? Because yeah, not even Mucinex can fix that.
Yeah, in conclusion, I think that Americans are way too accustomed to cars, especially if they don't live in dense cities like New York. Like, one example of it is that you can't have too much parking, but you can always have too little parking. Like, once there's like barely any parking spaces, they act like there's like some sort of famine going on, and then people fight for their lives just for one parking spot. I remember when people used to fight for food. Now people are fighting for parking spots. It's crazy out there. It's crazy how the auto industry created people like this today. And it's especially the fact that once like a pedestrian project comes up, people lose their minds over it as if like their country's getting invaded by it. All the alternative forms do decrease traffic. But New Yorkers still have a lot of congestion on the streets still, despite all of that. Why do I think so, at least? I could still be wrong, but I think it's because the living environment, the aggressive marketing in the suburbs, that is like, although it's a walkable city, you're pretty much surrounded by suburbs, and most people live in the suburbs are gonna come in with their automobiles. Yeah, not to mention it doesn't even make it any better with car lobbying in general.
And I can somewhat understand people that live in car-dependent suburbia because it's the best option for them. Also, cars have been ingrained in their minds the same way propaganda is spread to its citizens. Look what General Motors did with their propaganda videos.
Hey, you want some ice cream or a cool drink?
Orange juice, please. Oh, me too.
I'm gonna go for the ice cream.
Auto lobbies have made it people think that the automobile is like the 79th organ in your body because people literally can't live without it. I'm gonna emphasize again, when people propose more pedestrianized places, suburbanites get mad. If you add tolls or areas where you have to pay to drive, suburbanites get mad. It's a lose-lose situation. You can't make people happy, no matter if you try to make cities for like people.
Yeah, in general, even if we make pedestrianized places, it still probably wouldn't be enough for people to drive in anyway. Because even if they can drive to public transit, they still won't take it anyway. Even if it is reliable, even if it's quicker than driving it alone.
Approximately 3 million people go around by car in the city of New York. That's a lot of people considering how small New York is in comparison to Houston and Los Angeles, and they have a significantly smaller population. But look how congested those cities are already during rush hour. Although Los Angeles has decent public transit, Houston's transit is pretty freaking abysmal. And if you add about the same amount of cars that are in Los Angeles or Houston into New York, it's gonna be super chaotic. I can't even imagine how bad it's gonna be. But overall, I think the money that goes into the congestion pricing scheme, well, okay, you wanted to hear me say scheme, are you happy now? But yeah, all the money that comes to it, it better go to the MTA, and it better actually improve MTA. I heard that they're not increasing service. Why? Why are you not increasing service once it goes up to place? That is stupid. I hope you change your mind after you put that into place, but yeah, if done right, and I hope to God that it's done right, this is definitely going to be a good way to relieve like some congestion. It is the busiest part of the country, of course, so I don't think it's gonna Thanos it completely, but it's definitely a good start to like get like public services moving a lot more smoothly.
Yeah, but overall, it's a nice change what New York is doing, making cities for people overall. Like some people may see it as a cash grab, but in reality, did they really have a choice? Because no matter how pedestrian friendly you make a neighborhood, it's gonna look like what it is behind me. But yeah, overall, with congestion pricing being put into place, maybe cities like Philadelphia, Toronto, Montreal, or maybe my home city here can follow. Especially, yeah, my home city pretty much got hit by car or lobbyists very freaking badly. I feel like this city could have been like another New York. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still really good, but with its potential, it probably could have been better than New York, honestly. But on the other hand, there are some places in the city center here where it's like, maybe it's not needed, so maybe something similar. Maybe adding toll roads to the interstate. Yeah, I think that's a better idea. Yeah.